Okay, now previously I had discussed 3 of the haunted houses, although 2 of them were complete mystery. And I talked a bit about the third house, which we have been calling the Greek house. What if it's a falafel restaurant? Yes, baba ganoush for everybody! We had Sylvia Ganoush last year. What if she becomes Baba Ganoush? Would you like some souvlaki? How about some baklava? No, I'm getting silly. Alright. The house in the disaster queue. All we know about that house is that somehow a motor vehicle will be involved. A big van. And a fence. The fence looks kind of broken-y. It might have a sort of Leave It to Cleaver vibe in a way, but not necessarily, but in modern day. In other words, suburban environment with something really bad happening. Of course, that could be almost anything. If you believe the movie theory, if it's a house based on a movie, then, you know, there's any number of movies set in that kind of environment. Could be anything. Could be Soccer Moms of Doom. We have no idea. We really have no information. Now, the house in the Jaws queue line we have quite a bit of information about now. We know, for example, we know about the burnt wood that they're using to build part of it, but we also know that there will be a character which has been called or codenamed the valedictorian. Another one that's been called or codenamed bedclothes. Another that is called or codenamed Nightmare Man. Most recently we've heard this. Now, valedictorian made us think of school. It also made us think of college, of fraternity hazings, toga parties. Bedclothes could fit in with, you know, sheets to make togas out of. I thought of all of these things. I even had a wonderful post about the lantern, how it could be used, as it is used in college rituals. At the Seven Sisters School, the private girls' school in Pennsylvania, Bryn Mawr College, they have a lantern festival every year right around Halloween, usually right after Halloween, where they all get together in black robes, like with their lanterns, like something out of Hogwarts, chanting a song to the goddess Athena in Greek. You know, with all the images of owls and things, it does look like they're attending Hogwarts instead of Bryn Mawr. It's rather amusing. You know, it's an all-girls school. Interestingly enough, also in Pennsylvania, at the University of Pittsburgh, home of the Pitt Panthers, they also have a lantern night very similar. Also, it's only the female students that do that, the female freshman initiation ceremony for women who go to that school. So that kind of intrigued me if that lantern maybe is part of a school ritual, especially since XX can be seen as Chi Chi, 2 Greek letters, which could be the letters of a sorority. That's what I was thinking of. But all of that kind of gets really shaky, and all that fine speculating may go under the, you know, get lost to the winds when Nightmare Man shows up. The implication of, you know, schools and bed sheets and Nightmare Man, oh God, the first thing that comes to mind, the only thing, and even the burnt wood, it all points to one thing, and that seems to support the idea there will be a movie house, and that's our old friend Freddy Krueger. Oh dear. It really would be bad for those who want to insist that there will be no movie houses. So, I don't know. Again, speculation is all we can do, because I don't know which of the 2 sides is accurate, because they have proven track records, both of them. And then, of course, we have the house in the parade building. Now, all we know about that is that there will be bodies in the house. Well, that kind of casting tells us nothing. There are bodies everywhere at Halloween Horror Nights. But we do have the lovely rat lady coming back, and she'll be in a house. And we also have a vortex. Now, those who hold that we're bringing back old houses in new ways are thrilled with the thought of the rat lady being in a house, because that's where she originally was back in 1991's Dungeon of Terror. Will the parade building hold a new, improved, completely different, all wonderful, exciting Dungeon of Terror? The original Dungeon of Terror was an awesome house. Of course, those of us who remember it were quite young at the time. I was, in my 20s back then, and it was like, and of course it was the very first Halloween Horror Nights house that ever existed. There wasn't any other houses that year, and so your memories, it's like, oh yeah, the first one you remember. It's like the sequel's always not as good, and so that's the basis. That's what you judge everything else on later, and they have gone so far over the years into all sorts of wonderful things. If you could time machine yourself back to 1991 and go through Dungeon of Terror, it would still be an awesome house, but it may not stack up to all the stuff you've done since then. Part of it was that you never experienced this before. Hanging bodies that you have to crawl through, that's old nowadays. But back then you never had that before. Holy crap, it was amazing. The rat lady was actually in the floor, and you would have to walk on her, and she's underneath alive with rats on her. They can't do that again for safety reasons. But they may have her in the house. But I must remind people, Rat Lady was in the Fear Factor house a few years ago, so they could put her in something else entirely. We don't really know. Then we have the two tents. Now, one of our tents has an incredible facade being built up. It looks like it's going to completely obscure the white tent building. They've got this big black thing. It could be a huge structure, a barn, a church, some kind of warehouse. It's enormous to making a beautiful facade, much better than any tent facade since the Bates Motel, from the look of what they're doing there. We know that in that tent will be someone with a pitchfork. Pitchfork is this character name, apparently. We also know a bed victim, victim of a bed, a victim in bed. Plus we have scenes in an observation deck and scenes in military storage. Now, all this information together has led a lot of people to think about a certain movie that was released recently that fits all of these. A film called The Crazies, which was a remake of an old George Romero movie. Again, if there will definitely be a movie-based house, this could be it. But it could be something completely different. It could be a house that is loosely adapted from The Crazies, with similar concepts, but going in a different way altogether. One of those adaptation houses, not one of those based on directly houses. Or it could be entirely different from anything people have imagined thus far. The last house, the 8th house in the other tent, we know that they will have a museum hallway, a mummified corpse, and a dock. Now, people who do think old houses are coming back have jumped on the old Universal Museum of Horror houses, which they've had for years and years and years in the early 92, I think 93, 94, 95. I in fact, as recently, I think, as 98, I'm not sure if the Horror in Wax was similar, but not quite the different idea. But as late as 1998, they had a Universal Museum of Horror house. In those days, there would be two houses. One side, classic Universal monsters. The other side, 1980s, 1980s slasher movies. And so I don't know what they would do with a new version of this, if they would change it up quite a bit. Again, it could just be a museum that has nothing to do with the Museum of Horror. Certainly a doctor, a mummy, and a hallway, a museum hallway, suggests a museum. Now, do I have time for scare zones in the next minute? We'll try. 6 scare zones we know. 2 of them we have no idea what they'll be. Probably they'll be located at Avenue of the Stars in New York Street if they stay in the same area as they've done recently. The ones we do know about, Hollywood Boulevard, we have all sorts of characters that we've seen in years past. Chance, Chucky, Mary Shaw, plus the random cheerleaders, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Asylum in Wonderland, I guess, the dead cheerleaders, Pumpkinheads. This suggests to many people this is going to be a reunion Shadows of the Past scare zone. It could also be the place where we say farewell to those characters and move on to the new era of darkness. This may be the only place to see old icons, or this may be one of many places. Again, depending on who's right. Then we have, in Kid Zone, we have Willow Hut. What does that mean? God only knows. It could be Willow Ufgood. It could be Old Man Willow from The Lord of the Rings. It could be Willow from Buffy. God knows, if you believe in adaptations. Or it could be something entirely different. Sort of Wicker Man kind of pagan thing. The Hallow? I don't know. Mel's has... Okay, time's up again. So it'll be a third video now. Damn, I'm running out of costume changes.